Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Heretical Podcast. I'm your host, Marshall, and this is my co-host, Dylan.
Hello, hello.
I'll be honest. I wrote, a lot of times for these intros, I write a script. A lot of times, like just so I have like a set intro piece, and then it's just notes after that. I wrote at the beginning of this script, it's our official number. I don't know why the fuck I wrote that or what that's referring to.
You wrote it's our official number? That's what you wrote? What does that mean? What is that in reference to?
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck I wrote that for. Here's the thing. Okay,
what does that mean though?
I want you to bring you for a second into the mind palace that I often write these in. These are often written at about 6 or 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday or Sunday because I am at work and I'm between shows, which is my one break time. I get usually, if anything, like a one period on a weekend where I get a guaranteed break. And that's when I usually especially write the beginnings of episodes, and then I'll finish notes and stuff later. Right. So I clearly meant it to be something other than number or something. And I don't know. I don't know what that was supposed to be. I really don't. Oh, now I know what it was supposed to be. I don't know why I wrote official number. It's just very wrong. But now I know what I'm supposed to say. So here we go. It's part of our official name. And much like GW, I feel like we've done the Year of Chaos a disservice. Because if you didn't know, according to GW, 2025 was supposed to be the Year of Chaos. A year that has included a large Space Wolves refresh, a gigantic Ultramarines storyline push thing, which granted does look sick because we love Titus. And not a whole lot else. Technically, if anything, I think technically we got Skaven. We got new Skaven. I think that was this year. Was that this year? No, that was last year. Shit. We got Emperor's Children.
Oh, you're all mixed up.
We got the Emperor's Children. Yeah, we got that. We got that. Yeah. But that's about it. The Year of Chaos. So a lot of people have said they feel like the Year of Chaos been a little tough. So I'm going to rectify that this month. So we didn't do Orktober. So this month, November, will be the month of chaos. The dark gods will smile upon us today and the rest of this month.
Do you think maybe Games Workshop sort of put the back burner on the whole Year of Chaos thing because they looked at everything that was happening outside of Games Workshop? And we're like, man, y'all are doing chaos enough. We don't even have to get involved with this. We can just sit back and chill.
No, I think unfortunately Games Workshop just really seems to forget about chaos in general. Let's get into the beginnings of our November of chaos. So look, this is an extremely vague and kind of ubiquitous thing to talk about with 40k because obviously chaos is pretty prevalent. But I think this is
all around us.
It is. But I think part of it is like, it's really important, I think, to have this kind of baseline discussion. And I tried to have it a bit in almost any of our kind of chaos marine or chaos focused episodes. But I think to get really ubiquitous or like total about it and kind of relate that a little bit into some of the Chaos Space Marine stuff is pretty important, because I think otherwise you only really end up, I think, getting really into Chaos Space Marines when you read the Horus Heresy. But the one thing I don't know is how that will affect, if like that, for example, that short, when that short thing comes out, I don't necessarily know it's going to affect the viewpoint of every legion. Like, will the will the Iron Warriors suddenly kind of look bad?
Oh,
I don't know. My guess is the two that are going to come out the worst looking out of the whole thing are going to continue to be obviously our boys, the Iron Hands, because they just don't get to do much in the Horus Heresy. And I think the Emperor's Children, depending on the books they're selected, might actually end up looking pretty bad. But granted, out of the Horus Heresy books, we only read Fulgrim, and you know what? I like them still. And we like
Fulgrim was sick.
It can be, I think, hard for me, or for people, I should say, to kind of look at it and be like, why so many turn to chaos? And especially for reasons other than just, well, it's got to be better than what I have now. Like, it's easy to understand maybe why, a factory worker that, works essentially, like 12 hours a day, a
single mom that works two jobs. Yeah.
Like they're only most of their food is corpse starch. So literally they're eating the paste made from other humans, like, and then
I'm sorry, what was that?
Yeah, we haven't talked much about corpse starch, but that is literally a ration in 40k.
40k has its own Soylent Green.
Oh yeah.
Oh, great.
They don't hide it though. It's literally called corpse starch.
Amazing. Year of Chaos.
So a big thing, obviously, right, is so you could understand all of a sudden you're sitting there and the voice creeps in the back of your mind like, you could have power, you could get out, you could get riches, you could get revenge.
It's about drive, it's about power.
We devour. Continues to eat corpse starch.
Painting your minis, put in the work, put in the hours.
It's really easy to see why they would be like, yeah, fuck everything. There are people in power, right, that choose chaos. There are space marines that choose chaos. Why? So you know what? Let's talk a little bit about Grimdark. Let's get maybe a little heretical.
Us on this podcast?
Is
that allowed? Are we gonna get banned off of Mixer if we're too heretical?
Rest in peace. All right. So, let's look at the tagline, right? In the grim dark of the far future, there was only war. So the term grimdark, right, has obviously become irrevocably tied to 40k. And most people, it is looked at as that 40k literally is the one that invented the thing. Now, I don't know exactly, but it's not really a thing that was in Warhammer Fantasy. When Warhammer Fantasy started out, which was the original Warhammer, right? It was just Warhammer, which was fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Specifically, I think the full name was just Warhammer Fantasy Battle, but on the tin, it would just say Warhammer. And it was just like essentially a ripoff of history turned into a fantasy setting and was, I would say, grimly realistic, right? So like, but like in 40k, so in fantasy, there is room for hope. There are victories. There are places that have healthy and happy citizens. There are obviously places like Bretonia, which have peasants that are treated like dirt and would be awful to live in if you're not noble in any way, shape, or form. But there are plenty of places where there are happy people who just get by on the farm and just have a good life. Even if it's a peasant life, it's all right, Yes, there is a risk that like greenskins will come by and mob you, or the Skaven will poison your water supply. But that's part of being in a fantasy setting, right? It doesn't mean everyone's life is always perfect. like in Eberron, right? It's not like everybody's life in Eberron is perfect, but there are plenty of people whose lives are perfectly fine. So because, but it's not such high fantasy where everybody's great, but it's like a grounded fantasy. So then when you get to Grimdark in 40k, all of a sudden, everything is grim. Everything is sad. There is, there is the concept of no hope, and granted, there are grim fantasy stories, but supposedly 40k was kind of the originator of this. But, now Grimdark gets defined as a genre of fiction, especially fantasy fiction, which I would argue, as many do, that 40k is more of a fantasy fiction than sci-fi. But characterized by disturbing, violent, or bleak subject matter in a dystopian setting, which obviously is 40k to a T. So I bring this up because obviously the setting is a lot of this, right? So, while we generally look to humans as like a thing to attach to because, we're humans, it's easy to kind of start your basis at least, right? As like, okay, well, what are the humans doing, right? That's often kind of most people's first gauge at a setting,
Yeah.
But the Imperium is obviously filled with corruption. And, then you get to chaos, which they have mutations, pain. The various Xenos races are their own variety of doomed, right? The Eldar are just doomed. The Drukhari are in a way similarly doomed if they don't continue to bring pain to people. The orcs are maybe the orcs and Tyranids are technically maybe the only ones that aren't doomed, but they, are still pretty terrifying. And like everybody has some realm of like thing holding them back. The Tau are naive and potentially could fall to that naivety, So then you kind of have to get to the personal question, right? What makes us interested in such grim settings, right? Like, as you kind of made the joke about it earlier, the real world is pretty grim as it is,
Yeah, certainly.
And so, sure, part of it could be, right, that we wish to see worlds worse than ours, right? Our life our world in some cases maybe feels so bad that seeing a place just as desolate as these, maybe it gives us a little bit of realm of it could be worse, otherwise, it's, which for me, I think is part of it, right? That like, I think the will of seeing people in such impossible odds, and attempt to overcome them, maybe even if it does fail, the idea though that they did stand up for themselves is interesting to me. I think I find that very interesting. It's why I like the Guard. I like when there are these stories of your kind of average Joe doing something crazy in a setting like 40k. And like the sisters as well, so very similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of why I like Chaos, is they're a bit, in a way they're like CSM are rebels, whether they are specifically just Chaos or, like, whether they're specifically like Chaos focus or renegades, they're rebelling against what they thought was wrong. And there's a lot of interest in that. So I think that's kind of one of those things to like kind of look at when we talk then about Chaos itself, right? Like, what is it that would cause you to join Chaos? Because, we're looking at a pretty grim setting, but, Chaos itself is still bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nothing about Chaos when you hear it at all, especially at the start, ever feels redeeming. Like, why would you do this? Like, you look at, all these like horrid chaos demons and beings, and you're just like, why would you do that to yourself?
I mean, for the most part, I've looked at chaos in the world of Warhammer 40k as a real tangible thing, and that it's the way that it works and functions and spreads is a lot more akin to like a parasite or a virus that like infects people. And so for me, like once people reach a certain level of exposure to chaos, I don't see it as them like willingly choosing to go down that path so much as like once you've had enough exposure to it, it sort of infects you and turns you from the inside out and takes you beyond the point of like any sort of like recognition of what it is that you used to be. Like it corrupts you, fully. So I've rarely looked at like the moral standing of like, when I think about like, all the people that we talked about over the course of the history of 40k that are like, have like succumbed to chaos. I think that's a lot of it's the wording that is used to describe how these things happen, that it so rarely feels like people being like, oh, that's chaos. Awesome. I'm going to jump headfirst into that. Heck yeah, I'm so excited. And it's so often a case of like, they don't start out being into chaos. It is the exposure to it, and it is a corruption that happens over time to the point where like it's not really them making that choice. It's just something that becomes a part of them.
I'm really glad you actually feel that way, because I think that's a really great way to think of it, especially with 40k, because in fantasy, you sometimes do kind of get that, right? Because like, mind you, let's recall that essentially in 40k, the Prince of Slaanesh is Fulgrim. And, he, by going through her followings, he became a giant winged snake man,
like you do.
And in fantasy, the Prince of Slaanesh looks like this. Honestly, other than horns, pretty normal looking hot guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just like obviously meant to be like super good looking. Obviously, like that's the point. But like, he just has these big horns. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the interesting part in that is that in fantasy, especially old world, it kind of was the case that it was a little bit more like you did just kind of jump in and say like, in some cases, not all of them, but like some cases being like, oh, look at that chaos over there. I'm going to just jump right in. But the thing is, for a lot of the followers of chaos in the fantasy setting, they don't really end up looking that weird. I mean, we've got like the Skull Grinder, which looks pretty normal. He's just a big muscly guy. Same. I mean, that's true for the women too. They're big muscly women. It's the same thing.
He's got an Aztec hoop on his head,
Yeah, but that's like just kind of a corn thing, and then like this guy from Siege, he got like this extra man coming out of his shoulder. This is a character specifically too. It's not everybody gets this, but like, he obviously got a distinct mutation, but like 80% of him is still normal.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that really ends up kind of looking worse for wear out of the whole thing is the Lord of Plagues and most of the other Nurglekin or the Maggotkin, where he's just kind of a big, and he's got his guts kind of hanging out.
No, it looks fun.
We'll talk about that in a second. But again, like, and then that when versus like you look at the Slaughterbound, where his arm has literally morphed with a chain blade.
Oh yeah, he went Baraka with it.
Yeah, like where you're like, why would you want that?
Again, I could be wrong, but I feel like at this point it stops being about like want or desire, and it becomes like, what does the chaos that has infected your body, determined that it is going to be for you. It is just using your body as a vessel. Like you don't have a tangible like intention behind these types of body modifications.
Right.
I could be wrong on that, but that's how
that is actually very much to me like what 40k then ends up kind of doing, is that a lot of times that is the case. Now sometimes you're born into it, right? Like if there's a new world eater made, right? They're kind of bred into it by like they kidnap some child and then instill them with all the gene seed and that they have, whether it be real or not, and like or original or not, and then they're just like, tell them from the jump, like, here's Corn, he's your friend, and now take this chain axe and go murder. Like, but there are those that do make that choice. Luft Huron made that choice. The original legions somewhat made that choice. And I say somewhat because obviously not entirely, but there is to that. But I think a good thing to also remind ourselves is, while the Chaos Gods inherently are selfish and generally fed and buy and look to push the worst sides of humanity, there are the best sides of them that become apparent and are the things that people, when they do choose, whether it be fantasy or 40k, see and are attracted to. And the first one I want to kind of get into that with is Khorne, because being the god of war and murder does not seem to a layperson like something that may interest them if they're not a soldier. But it's part of it is the reminder that he is also of honor, right? Anybody who sits there and is always willing to make good on their deals, somebody who doesn't backstab somebody else, even if it's not cheating them at the farmer's market counter, right? Selling somebody rotten corn you made. Get it? Like you have rotten fruit, you have whatever, and you sell it to them. Like if you don't do that, in a way that feeds Khorne, it feeds his honor side. And then when you maybe get mad or you get upset, that part of Khorne, the other side, comes through maybe a little bit more, and that feeds your anger. It's really easy to suddenly kind of, if there's any realm of like a little warp mingle in there, that it could get you. Or again, you get mad enough and you find yourself like, fuck it. You hear about these Khorne people and they're filled. Then as a soldier, obviously, you hear these Khorne people and you're like, look, they're honorous soldiers. I'll never be backstabbed. I'm not going to be sold out by my governor. I will always be able to be a soldier, and I will fight, which is partly why Khorne hates psychers, because their distant natures and like the indirect form of fighting he feels is kind of an affront and more of a realm of trickery. But like the world eaters in this case are a great example, because while they get memed to angry murder marines, they were so much more than that. And while they were truly tragic, in a way, now they are genuinely free. Yes, now they act a lot like murder hobos, but again, the freedom is what to look at. Like, while they are kind of just holistically driven by this urge to just kill, maim, and slaughter, right? They're not grounded to anything. They don't have maybe anything other than Angron to just kind of be like, go over there. But it's not like Angron also sits there and is like, yes, I need you to go over there and file your taxes. Angron's like, just go over there and go nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a freedom. It is, especially for like soldiers like Space Marines that are inevitably or inherently bred to kill, that there is a sense of freedom, that just true unchained rage can be sent somewhere. And that's the thing, right? It doesn't mean that like that these world eaters never talk, that they don't ever sit or have to move. It's just when they have to do something good for a long time that the itch starts and the pain creeps in. But like, they're never out for that long. They don't have to sit out. They're not being told to wait for forever and a half, you know? They just move to wherever they need to go. They're not beholden by the rules generally. So yeah, like a lot of them do end up there's a lot of them that go mad, and all of the gods will have downsides. But similar, like I said, the Imperium has downsides. But like there are plenty of those who are able to be commanders who kind of have mastered their control of the butcher's nails, and you just have a great sense of freedom. It's actually very similar to what we talked about with Gundam Wing, where Zex's whole thing about like he can only ever be a soldier. He can't be anything else. He no longer knows how to be anything else. That's a Space Marine. That's these world eaters. They're truly nothing but warriors. And what greater way to do that than to just be part of this warrior sect that gets to just be themselves, be the warriors that they are with an unbridled passion. Nurgle's another great example of the cover does not show the whole story. Because, I mean, let's be real here. I mean, you're going to say yes, I know, because of the way he looks, but I want you to just get to it. Would you look at this guy and be like, yeah, he's happy as a clam?
No, I feel like he's got shadows under his eye that suggest that he has a lot of late nights he spends, staying up thinking about his life choices.
Yeah, but he just got that smile on his face there.
I don't know. I don't know if that's just like if that's a smile that he puts up for appearances or if it's genuine, I feel like I've seen that smile on a lot of my coworkers. So. Also, every time I go to a store and I'm in like the mirror aisle, I feel like I see that face.
The mirror aisle.
At the mirror store.
Why are you buying clothes at the mirror store? So, but that's the thing, is actually those who follow Nurgle are generally, they come to be the least regretful, to be honest.
But it's the come to be part of it that I think I get hung up on.
Because there's a process. I mean, look, this doesn't necessarily technically relate to poxwalkers. Poxwalkers are essentially just zombies that are they're trapped in their own mind while their body does other things. Sure, they're not feeling any of the pain, but like also they're witnessing everything they're doing, and it's kind of horrifying.
Yeah, Buckeyes fans got it.
I don't know. They win a lot. I don't know about that. Anyway, that's the thing with Nurgle, right? Is that it's kind of a cycle, right? So sure, you start, maybe you accept, because a Poxwalker doesn't accept Nurgle's gifts. They are unwilling participants. But like if you were to say accept Nurgle's gift, whether knowingly or not, it might start off, it's a disease, a mutation, and it will be painful, The pain is sometimes long, and in some ways it may end up in a scenario where if you don't die as a part of the process, you may wish you did. And yeah, that's a tough sell. But over time, when the disease is continuing to ravage you, and even then, for whatever reason that you don't die, right? And you're just like, why? It's like the 7 stages of grief. Eventually you hit acceptance. You begin to understand that you're going to live with this. And slowly but surely, the pain, the disease, the mutation, all those negative feelings begin to fade. And all of a sudden, over the time, you don't feel any pain. You sometimes feel power. The disease is part of you. You don't suffer from it anymore. It just is you. And sure, you may spread plague, but the plague is nothing to you. You know, you are that plague now. There's actually a story of a character. I don't remember their name, and like it's kind of mostly going from memory here, but he got these blessings from Nurgle, and part of the deal essentially ended up kind of being, because he got a disease through Nurgle, but he just lived, but it never mutated him in a horrible way.
Oh, he just walked it off?
Kinda. But then what would happen was he would feel sick and he would just look sick. He didn't look mutated. He just looked sick. Like if you just passed by somebody with a cold, like you wouldn't think of them as like, you know, of having the bubonic plague, you know, like, and then all of a sudden he would travel on these ships, go port to port, and people on those ships would just become just disease cesspools, and they would die and just like get these horrid diseases and would mutate and blah, blah, blah. And people would think that these chaos incursions were just happening to these people, but it would be the second person, right? It would be like the second guy who got sick from this first guy that they would blame, because the first guy never looked weird. So eventually it kind of came full circle, and part of the gift kind of became that, hey, you're just going to live with this disease for forever and you'll never die. But you get to just kind of go and do whatever you want. Just keep ferrying across these ships. Go see different planets. Go do different things. And no diseases will ever touch you. You pretty much will not die or be killed. And you get to do whatever you want, as long as you just keep spreading some of those plagues for Papa Nurgle, you know? And from that, he kind of ends up being pretty chill. He doesn't like look bad. He looks like a normal human, right? Sure, he can't do like, I don't think he could have a family, but I think at this point this character has kind of put that out of his prospects. But it doesn't mean he can't do anything else, right? He's spreading disease. His job is disease spreader, right? So if he spreads disease, you know, like, what's the word? Like when you cough or through the air.
Airborne illness? Or?
Yeah, essentially just airborne. I think it's like, I thought I was thinking like or olfactory or something like that. But like if he spreads them through like airborne, through his breath, through touch, venereal, who's to care? You know? He's spreading disease, and that's what Nurgle wants. And so he's kind of now in this somewhat life of comfort, because he doesn't go hungry, he doesn't go thirsty, but he can do whatever he wants. He gets to just roam the stars, see everything, do anything. He doesn't stay there long, but he gets to do whatever he wants. Zeech is a little bit easier, though, to see the upsides with. Obviously, magic powers. Sick. I could control things with my mind. That's cool. Like, it's look, Magnus may have been kind of dumb for being as like in many scenarios, Magnus kind of was a dumbass, but he was still pretty damn powerful. Like he's a pretty strong dude, especially now he's even stronger. And I would argue he's slightly less dumb than he was. And honestly, part of that's just because he's unchained. Like he's not trying to be better or be whatever. He's just him. He's him. but like, yeah, obviously the mutation part can be seen as pretty bad, but kind of as we saw in that like AOS character, the power you get sometimes can outweigh the type of mutation that you get, right? I mean, look, if I followed Tzeentch and the one price I had to pay was that my feet turned into bird talons, I might take the deal. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It may not be that bad of a deal. And yes, Tzeentch has his load of problems, but we're focusing on the positive sides. Like he'll betray you constantly. But like again, like upsides here, folks. Slaanesh is a little bit easier to gauge too. You know, pleasure is pleasure, right? But I want to clarify, like, remember that like pleasure does not just mean sexual pleasure. Yes, that's the meme, but like it's Slaanesh is all facets of pleasure, right? You know, you practice that note really good. You know, Tzeentch is actually kind of similar in this, right? Where it's like you want to advance so you get better at something. Tzeentch is more like you want to advance. It's like politics where you want to advance so you betray somebody. You know, Slaanesh is like you want to become a concert pianist so you practice the shit out of the piano. And that excessive practice will make you a better pianist, right? Like that's the whole basis of La Fenice, you know? That whole thing is centered around her desire to make the perfect, for Becwa to make the perfect, like orchestral piece. Nothing to do with the physicality of things at all.
Yeah.
And it's any form of excess, which for Slaanesh is actually one of the best, makes them secretly one of the most powerful gods, is because it is the excess of all of those things. So truthfully, all the other chaos gods, even then, still feed Slaanesh, right? Excess murder, that goes to Slaanesh. Excess desire, that goes to Slaanesh. You know, the desire for the desire for a greater life, a greater turn, or like longer life, which technically isn't Nurgle's favorite thing, but wanting to spread all these extra diseases, that feeds Slaanesh, you know? Like there is value in all of that excess. And in the end, right, this becomes the addict's conundrum, right? Like feeling the addiction generally feels pretty good, but in many cases, obviously that addiction can ruin things, but it can be very hard to get off the desire for that high. And that again can be multiplicitous. It's not just drugs. It's, you know, that feeling of succeeding. Let's go back to music, right? You practice guitar, you're trying to learn a song, you nail it. Now you're driven. I want to try a song that's a little harder, you know, go to the next one, practice the shit out of it, go to the next one. All of that feeds Slaanesh. And that's the thing, is Slaanesh can give you kind of that push to be like, go for it, finish it, perfect it, you know, like that's the thing. It's so inherently she's really easy to fall into, you know, because how many people do you know that constantly strive for that betterment, especially in an art space, right?
There's very few people that don't have some sort of a goal orientation that they are leaning towards, something in some facet of their life that they want to strive to achieve.
Yeah.
Even people that will tell you that, like, I'm comfortable where I'm at. I'm in a place where I feel fully situated. I have everything, but that doesn't supersede, like, they could still have wants or desires, and things that they want to save up towards and, work towards, even if in terms of like most of their life balance, they've got things pretty worked out.
Yeah. And so like, to kind of then move in somewhat to like the Marines, but it could be in general, right? So why would you ally or join chaos other than just like falling into it? I mean, actively choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I mean, in especially a place like 40k, power, right? Like chaos has immeasurable power, and whether you deeply believe in their cause or not, it's really easy for especially those like Astartes and other people in high places to think, I'll have some of that, There are those also that look to chaos kind of as a means to an end, like Abaddon and somewhat like Horus before him, where they don't really like the chaos gods, but it's hard to discount their existence, especially in Horus's case, when they were the ones showing him the quote unquote truth. Abaddon's case being that they literally essentially were talking to him in the Eye of Terror. And B, they do be giving a lot of power. But again, and a good example of that power thing is Abaddon went from being a normal Marine to being on the power level tier of a Primarch. Horus went from a Primarch to being on par, and some would say even more powerful than the Emperor. So there's a lot of...
that sounds like heresy, though.
Sure, but that is what they did. They truly are that powerful. Otherwise, there are others that do, look at it literally as like a power source. So like the Iron Warriors are a great aspect of this, where like, for a while they were generally seen as like solely atheistic and then became more chaosy when the demon engines came out. But like, I actually do kind of like part of this because like, again, it hasn't changed though, that the way that they look at the demon engines and chaos is like fuel. You're just gasoline to me. That's how they look at the warp, and chaos. So, volatile, yes, but a good amount of power. And thus you don't see a lot of like sorcerers and acolytes and like the Iron Warriors and even maybe the Night Lords, for example, but you'll see them still use demon engines, right? In Morvenn Vahl's Spear of the Faith, the Death of Saints, the main Night Lord's villain of that book, or antagonist, like one should say, is, he has this really powerful twin-headed Helldrake, and they use venom crawlers and other demon engines as well. But like, Night Lords are not necessarily known for being super into the chaos gods, but they'll take power when they can get it. You sure bet. And that's one of those things. It's just like, some of them kind of live in that realm. The Night Lords maybe specifically are kind of like, the whole, they're kind of live in that philosophy of like, those who have only ever lived and know darkness and destruction will only see darkness, destruction as a way of life. So the concept of the chaos gods being dark gods, well, if you live in the dark, then they are your gods. the world is this way. So why is worshiping them then make anything any different? Right?
Yeah.
And the Night Lords kind of take to that. They're like, we have only ever known darkness. The dark god and chaos and being in the warp and tapping the warp allows us to do and enable this darkness all the time. And we've never been more effective. And that, again, consistent feeling of betrayal that all 9 original legions that Turn Traitor felt continues further, and they're like, we will use that against the Imperium. Otherwise, there are the ones like the Word Bearers that were like, hey, there's a great level of confidence and comfort knowing that there is a power out there that will take your worship and reward you for it. When you mentioned how like you looked at chaos as a tangible thing, well, to the Word Bearers, that's important because they are tangible. You worship to them. You give them praise like a king or whatever. And they give you power. And there are things with that. But honestly, the Word Bearers are benefited by worshiping Chaos Undivided. They kind of end up getting the best of all those worlds, which is why Bellicor, for example, if you remember him, was so strong. He kind of got the best of everyone for a while.
Yeah.
Until they kind of realized he was schmoozing and were like, go away. You're creeping us out now. He went to a TwitchCon after party, tried
to stop asking us, where's my hug?
Yeah. But so the Word Bearers were like, hey, we'll use that, and we'll work with you, man. Like we are here for it, because that's just, it's what they were brought up to believe. The entire world that Lorgar came from was just this heavy, religious world. And so that's all he knew. And granted, right, like in some regard, this kind of sounds a little bit like Satan stories, especially from like the biblical side of things, where it's like, your life sucks, so Satan comes along and is like, I'll make it better. And then you're like, okay. And then like, obviously, usually something bad happens. But like, look, it's hard to say that it didn't give them results. And in the world of 40K, sometimes that result is that only thing that matters, because otherwise your life may only exist for, 20 years anyway. So, honestly, in some regard, why not make the ride interesting? But that kind of goes to that whole like life sucks as it is anyway kind of argument, and we're trying to avoid that.
Right.
And to be fair, hard to say that the Word Bearers weren't generally right, and in some ways it kind of didn't technically work out for them. Like, yeah, sure, did they ruin everything when it comes to like starting the heresy? Sure, duh. But also, like, they continue to, like, they really string through that point of like that most traitor legions get, of that sense of betrayal and finding essentially a comfort, a rebound, if you will. A rebound god. Their first god burned their version of Jerusalem and was like, stop worshiping me, go fuck yourself. Mm-hmm. And so they went to rebound gods in the 4 chaos gods. They got dumped. So, and again, who's to say that the Emperor's perfect Imperium, if they had succeeded and they never betrayed, would have been that good? There's a lot of things pointing to the fact that despite that he did say otherwise, and it may had been looking like it wouldn't be the case, that the Empire would have just gotten rid of all the Primarchs and the Marines after the end of the Crusade, Hell, Malkador, the Emperor's right-hand man, and if anything, the actually only competent guy running the Imperium, was in the camp of just kill them all after this is done.
Mm.
So honestly, he was in the kind of the idea of kill them all right now when the heresy started. So, like, realistically, if something else had caused some form of betrayal, would the word bearers really then have been wrong? Like, or would they, would the Emperor of Inevitable, would Malkador or the Emperor have found some reason later on to just completely betray all 18 of them? Who's to say? Nothing about the Emperor and his secrecy gave them any confidence to believe that that would never be true, because he had gotten rid of 2 Primarchs before that, and they all knew it. And that was always the biggest thing that gets hidden in a lot of those Horus Heresy books, is they don't mention it much, but inevitably every one of those Primarchs knew they could be next. And that is a big reason that the word bearers, in many ways, were right. And now they're not only continually rewarded for it, but they're continually proven right about how bad and poorly built the Imperium was and what it did to these planets because of what it became. But now they just continue to ruin it because they've just gone full in the deep end. They're just in that I'm just straight up evil.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah, I mean, the word bearers, I mean, that's the thing, right? The word bearers went full circle and they went into the Spider-Man meme instead of them being like, I just want to turn people into dinosaurs. They're like, you have all this power. You could save the Imperium. I don't want to save the Imperium. I want to sacrifice to the Chaos Gods. Mm-hmm. And who's to say what would happen if chaos truly did rule all of society? I mean, you want to send me an example of that?
I mean, the wild thing is that there's a greater than 0% chance that they would also turn people into dinosaurs.
Zinch would 100%. But the funny thing is, especially for like a player, like as a viewer, right? For us, above board, a big reason to kind of look at chaos and be like, it may not always be that bad, is kind of look at the end times of Warhammer Fantasy. Now, you don't know much about this, but I'm going to tell you what you need to know. And because Warhammer Fantasy's end times, so the old world's literal end that led into Age of Sigmar, chaos wins. And here's the reality. Yes, the old world is destroyed. Literally, the planet explodes, essentially, right? Chaos wins. The planet is completely destroyed. Do you know what happened to those followers of chaos?
I would assume they got subsumed into the chaos itself.
Not entirely. They were given their own domain.
Oh.
The Ever-Chosen, the essentially Abaddon equivalent, was given his own domain in chaos that would link to what would become like 9 realm sphere portals. And he would continue to be their champion. Not only that, but then would receive blessings from 3 of the 4 currently active chaos gods. The twist in that is the Skaven god became the 5th chaos god because Slaanesh got put into Elven prison, not Eldar, Elven prison. So it's been pretty inactive in the setting as a god. But that chaos leader called the Ever-Chosen, he took it the Great Horned Rat's blessing and literally spat in his direction.
Oh, nice.
He was like, fuck you, rat. But the 3 other chaos gods that are active gave him blessings. and then had him continue on. So, like I said, is everything about following chaos perfect? No, but nothing in this setting is. This setting is grimdark. This is a setting about everything sucks. What suck do you want to suck with? You know? And, you like the Tau. And in some respects, there's a lot of things that point to the Tau probably being the best scenario to live in. Even if it's a caste system and you don't really get much upward mobility, especially if you're a human. But like, you're not eating corpse starch. And there's not a literal mouth coming out of your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're not doomed to eternal torture from Slaanesh. So, but equivalent, you only live 15 years and you have no upward mobility. So like everything has its drawbacks. And so while chaos may seem incredibly unappealing, especially the layperson, you look at their models and you see like this man has this, like I said, this man has a stomach mouth. They have tentacles instead of an arm. Their tongue is taking the entirety of their mouth and wraps around their body. Like these are horrifying just hot girl sounding tummy things. Troubles, Hot girl tummy troubles. I love that. I want somebody to describe the like Death Guard or the Maggotkin as just having hot girl tummy troubles.
I feel like it tracks. Yeah.
Oh, it would. I mean, Nurgle players are like always like some of the most chill people in the game. Like, it works with Papa Nurgle, right? Like everything is just about like, because Nurgle is the happiest chaos god. Because again, his whole thing is about the acceptance of death. So once you learn that death is inevitable and it will come for us all, you get to enjoy everything. You get to you don't live in fear of death. And in some ways, you get to stave off that death pretty often, So like, there's all these like good things that, could draw you, but it sometimes is honestly just the simplicity of it. And yes, you're right. 40k often paints the picture with chaos as less of a choice. It's almost this parasitic, but still symbiotic in some regards relationship where unbeknownst to you, you are tempted by a voice or something calls out to you, or you just start doing something too much and Slaanesh gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
But in many scenarios, people make the choice. And this was kind of more about understanding why people make that choice. That they're not just crazy, they have a reason sometimes. That's largely all I got now. About the whims of chaos. Or our chaos propaganda hour.
So if Slaanesh knocks on your door, I'm going to turn the light on you. If Slaanesh knocks on your door and goes, "Listen, I want to help you to achieve your greatest desires. Whatever your dream is that you've been wanting to accomplish, whatever it is that gives you the greatest amount of pleasure, I'm going to help you do that. You don't have to tell me what that thing would be, like what that ultimate dream is for you. But would you say yes, or would you shut the door in their face?"
I've always said this. If I ever chose a chaos god, I would probably choose Tzeentch. But if I were to fall for a chaos god, it would be Slaanesh. I am so Slaanesh coded because, I mean, like to get a little existential here, look at this podcast. Look at all the things that the random, like, because to those who may not be, who maybe, or, you know, obviously to many of those who are new to me as a creator, I've done a lot of stuff. You know, I started a YouTube channel for like Let's Plays 11 years ago. And I did my first stream 8. It's been a long time that I've been trying to do content, and I've always strived to find some way to do it better. Just finding new ways to change it, to be funnier, to be more concise, to not drag on, which I still do, but you know. But that's the thing, right? Like, if I were to fall for a chaos god, it would truly be Slaanesh. I would like the experience, however, to be more like AOS Fantasy Slaanesh versus the Emperor's Children kind of Warhammer 40k Slaanesh. Like, I'm gonna be super real with you.
If you get to choose which one of them is the pizza boy at the door, yeah.
Sure. Well, moreover, at least like, yeah. Or like, at least like what my outcome kind of could be like, because I definitely tell you what, like, I really, I don't want to be the dude with the infernal enrapturous. I don't want that to be me. The guy there, I don't want that to be me. That's not what I'm into.
Okay, but you know it's making sweet, wonderful music.
I don't know. The thing is, honestly, parts of Slaanesh to me, which I partly why I always find Slaanesh so interesting, is as somebody who grew up with a pretty light but still noticeable Catholic upbringing. So I didn't go to church as a kid, but you know, always knew about things like the 10 Commandments movie, the commandments themselves, you know, parts of the Bible, biblical stories, you know. I've always found those stories and tales and like all that, I've always found them interesting. And Slaanesh always feels super biblical story Satan coded, you know? Like, you know, you've succumbed to temptation and now you are sinned for the thing that you loved most, right? You are tormented and sinned for that thing, that sin that you were subjected to, that thing that you were obsessed with that drove you to sin, whatever it be. Slaanesh is very like that, you know? But still, I mean, honestly, there's still a lot of, in fantasy, you know, you sometimes, you know, like, for example, maybe you get mutated, but for the most part, you know, you're just like a big chubby guy with a chariot, you know? Like, yeah, he's got like a tentacle arm now, but he doesn't look upset about it. I think Slaanesh probably would be the one I would most easily fall to.
I'd give him one night.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, whatever pleasure I derive from that night, whatever we end up doing, you can have that. And you can take that with you, no strings attached. But I'm only giving them one night because, like, I'm a busy guy. I got things to do.
But that's how Slaanesh gets you. You think it's just one night, but whatever happens, whatever you do, it sticks with you.
I'm not gonna be his booty call. Like, I'm immediately like deleting his phone number. But that's blocked.
That's the trick, is you don't get it. It would be, you wouldn't try to go to them again. What you would do, the thing that feeds Slaanesh, is you go to the next thing looking for something better. That's the key. It's not you go back. Slaanesh wouldn't want you to come back. If you tried calling Slaanesh,
Slaanesh would want me to come back. Let's be real. They want me to come back.
If Slanesh tried to make you, if you tried to call Slanesh back, they would not answer the phone. You'd be left on red. They would ghost the shit out of you. Why? To make you go to the next person and go for more. Be like, I can do better than that. Fuck them. But you've fallen into their trap.
Who's more?
Anything. It's all to what you're looking for. They may not be more. So you look for someone else. Try to be more. Try to get more. It would be, the thing is, they would leave you with just enough to make it so that you would look for something better from someone else. The only way that you could defeat Slanesh is you have a one night jam session with Slanesh, right? You have
if that's like, what we got to call it, sure.
Yeah, sure, right? That's what we're gonna call it. You have a jam session, right? You have a sick jam. You have a sick jam. Mm-hmm. You write some good guitar riffs. We'll say it's with the guitar specifically.
Put some chords together.
We'll say if anything, maybe specifically with the guitar or whatever, right? You want to get better. And then the only way it could beat Slanesh is you never touch the guitar again. You sell all of them and you don't do a damn thing. Right? Or you drop music. You'd completely get rid of music in your life. And you'd only ever listen to it. You'd never make music again.
I think I could do that. That's the only way you beat.
That is the only way you would beat Slanesh.
I think I could do that. I think it's the kind of thing that wouldn't be easy because I adore music so much. It's so important to me. Yes. But I think I could do it. I think there is still something out there that I have a greater need for, a greater desire for, that I know Slanesh couldn't provide me. And no amount of chaos would be able to provide me either.
That's the thing, right? That's what makes them so tricky. But to me, it's what makes them so interesting. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely why I'm so attached to Slanesh, right? Because that whole improvement.
Oh, so you've already gave in. You're already under his influence.
Look, I've got an Emperor's Children army. Like,
yeah.
Well, I don't have an army. I bought the box. I've got pieces to make an army. Though there's kind of a thing with that. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to commit to it. I haven't really touched it. I'm starting to ask some questions, but that's a different discussion for a different time.
You're fully in that stage of like, listen, I'm not saying I agree with it. We're just asking questions here. We're just having a discussion, it's just a conversation.
The stage and I'm actually more is like the I think I need to stop floating around. I think I need to settle down.
Oh, that's what it is. I'm going for the one night and you're going for I think it's time to settle. It's time to
a little. I think I've got too many open projects going on. I think I may need to downsize. And stick with it. Yeah. Yeah, I think I may need to downsize.
Okay.
I got too many open projects and I think it's gotten me into that paralysis.
Sure.
But that's, like I said, different discussion, different time.
I can't settle until Slanesh guarantees that they can teleport me back to the time between March 2003 and August 2006. Until
just a good period for you?
Until they can guarantee because the thing that I can potentially give up music for, the dream is to, if I have to be the one to do it, I will go back in time after making a deal with Slanesh. Yeah. And I will go back to the time between like spring of 2003 and August of 2006. And I will stockpile as many boxes of Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Swoops as I can and bring them with me to the future so that I can bury them in the ground and grow new Reese's peanut butter swoops for everyone to enjoy. or at least convince the Hershey's company that they did in fact make these at one point and they should make them again. Because I worry that they've forgotten. I think after all this time, they've genuinely forgotten that they made the perfect snack. Like, you want to talk about desires? The people that work at the Hershey's company, many of the like higher ups, the execs, they've made some kind of deal with the devil to get to the position that they're at. But you also get the sense that like they've plateaued, like they're no longer chasing after that desire, and that doesn't work for what Slaanesh wants. So my trade is I'm being like, listen, you and I are going to get that one night and it's going to be great. You're not going to get that like that desire, that drive that you want. You're not going to get that from me. You're going to get that from the board of investors for the Hershey company, because I'm going to convince them that they need to pursue bringing Reese's peanut butter swoops back to the market. And they're going to be so inspired by that you're going to be able to feed off of their desire and their pleasure. The pleasure of the world getting to eat these again will feed Slaanesh for 1,000 years.
Okay, so you're like, that's interesting, but like realistically, like everything about that sounds like you're actually trying to make a deal with Zinch.
Maybe,
especially giving that Zinch
maybe it has
have
to be
time
Zinch.
magic.
Maybe it has to be Zinch.
It helps that Zinch has time magic pretty down pat. But like it works on their level too, because like you kind of like, honestly, the whole thing sounded like an orc trying to make a deal with Zinch. Like with the whole like planting them in the ground thing. That really felt like,
if your desire is strong enough, you got to be willing to try anything. If your passion is strong enough and you derive enough pleasure from these, which you will, by the way, you have to be willing to try any possible option to make it happen.
Yeah, maybe you do like a multifaceted deal,
Yeah.
Could work. I think with that, it's a great way to end the episode.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you wanted chaos, this is how you create chaos. Whether it's in the world or on this podcast specifically. Is you give me the ability to time travel back to 2003 so I can bring peanut butter swoops back to the modern age.
Amazing. Anyway, that is our big rundown though on chaos. I mean, do you feel like though you have maybe a better understanding to like maybe like why Chaos Space Marines do what they do?
I do. Candy bits aside, I genuinely do. That it was good to get into that and have it be much more of a philosophical thing than my original understanding of it. It was
yes.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for this to be like one of our most poorly rated episodes. Because people, I don't know how I like get people to click on some. I'm like, we had a philosophical debate about chaos.
You're trying. Oh yeah. In terms of like, how do we like, what do we even make the thumbnail? Like, how do we advertise?
How do I interest people in this? Because it's such a weird jump.
Put the wizard that's pondering his orb on the thumbnail, and then inside the orb can be a Reese's peanut butter swoop, and you'll get at least like 15 views. I think.
Oh, you know what? I think I'll definitely get people to be like, "What the fuck is this?"
Out of sheer curiosity, or put like a distorted version of Bricky's face in there or something. You'll at least like get their curiosity. Like,
I think Bricky needs to be in the episode if I'm going to do that.
Honestly, I respect that. I respect the line there. That's fair.
That is definitely goals, though. That's goals.
Yes, that's our desire that we're trying to manifest. That's
when I know I've made it. Is if I can put Bricky in a thumbnail because he's in an episode, and therefore I can distort his face.
I can put a giant red arrow next to his hairline.
The forehead. Put your ad space here, like Poor Hammer does all the time.
Did you see it?
See what?
No, I'm referencing the.
Oh,
this guy.
Okay. No, I thought you were saying. I thought you were trying to say, "Did I see something?"
No.
All right, that's. We gotta stop next week.
Y'all wanted chaos, you got it.
Here it is. Next week, we're gonna have a light start on.
Oh,
like I alluded to, this is gonna be kind of obviously a pretty. I kind of alluded to this last week. We're gonna get pretty Space Marine-y kind of for this month, because CSM's kind of a big deal. But what we're gonna do with it is next week, we're gonna hit up. We're gonna start low on the chaos scale, and we're gonna get to the Iron Warriors.
Oh,
talk a little about Perturabo and the Iron Warriors.
Okay.
I would have loved, if anything, to do like the Iron Warriors and then immediately do an Imperial Fists episode after that, but we'll wait on that. We'll get to it. We'll wait till next month or something.
Good things.
So.
These things, they take time.
Yeah. We gotta get through chaos, man. We can't be the people that beat them. Anyway. And then so we're gonna start with the Iron Warriors. We're gonna hit that kind of our good footing, and then we'll the week after that we'll kind of dive pretty deep into the chaos pool.
We're in the shallow end right now,
we're going to try to figure out how we're going to get through the episode at the end of the month. Because Thanksgiving likes to throw a wrench in these things. So we're going to figure that out.
Absolutely.
And then, we're going to be getting close to the end of the year in our kind of winter break. So it'd be like mostly like the last week of December and the first week of January is how that worked last year. It's probably how it'll work this year. But yeah, we're wrapping it in there, but we're going to get through this month of chaos and it's going to be a good time.
Chaos. Jazz hands.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye. Hello. Because it's chaos.